Good morning. My name is Colleen McCarty. I'm the Executive Director of Oklahoma Appleseed Center for Law and Justice, and we are a member of the Oklahoma Criminalized Survivor Coalition with several other of the advocates that are here behind me. Today, we are mourning the women and men who are survivors of domestic violence who are being left behind prison bars because of the failure to include retroactivity in HB 1639. We've been advocating for sentencing mitigation for survivors of violence all year long, and that has culminated in the filing of HB 1639, which included a sentencing mitigation procedure for people who could prove they were abused at the time of their crime and were entitled to receive a shorter sentence. The bill also included a retroactivity provision which could have impacted up to 150 criminalized survivors in Oklahoma who are now serving time in prison. My co-counsel Leslie Briggs and I represent April Wilkens, who is a criminalized survivor serving a life sentence in Oklahoma prison because she shot and killed her abuser in self-defense in 1998. She was handcuffed at the time she shot him, and he was advancing on her after he had sexually assaulted her. She has tried time and time again to get her sentence shortened, either through the courts or through the Pardon and Parole Board, and every single measure she has tried has failed. This bill is likely her last chance to have freedom sometime in her life. We learned last Friday that the legislature has decided to remove the retroactivity provisions from HB 1639. We have worked together with the District Attorney's Council all session to try to come to an agreement about this bill and make one that all of us could be happy with. Unfortunately, all of the pieces that the District Attorney's Council wanted in the bill have made it in, and none of the pieces that the advocates have wanted made it in. That is not compromise, that is an ambush. I'm going to now introduce Tracy Lyall from Domestic Violence Intervention Services to speak on her organization's behalf.
Thank you, Colleen. As Colleen said, my name is Tracy Lyall. I'm the CEO of Domestic Violence Intervention Services in Tulsa. I've been working on behalf of survivors of domestic violence for over 20 years. Every day in our work with survivors, we see the devastation that is left behind in the wake of rampant domestic violence in our state. And too often, survivors of domestic violence are denied the opportunity to receive our services if they are charged with a crime. That is true even though we know that the vast majority of women in prison in this state are survivors of abuse. Even worse, we do not take their abuse into account when sentencing them to prison, resulting in long prison sentences that do not fit the circumstances of the crime. In 2022, DVIS served over 3,800 people seeking court advocacy and protective orders, nearly 800 survivors of domestic violence, over 500 survivors of rape and sexual assault, over 400 survivors of children needing emergency shelter, and nearly 300 people working with law enforcement, and almost 3,500 people who called or texted our crisis line. And those numbers are just for Tulsa and Creek counties. Domestic violence is a complex and very secret issue. In fact, it is often the desperate survival strategies of a victim that the public sees first. Self-defense, trauma-related addiction, parental kidnapping to protect their children, being compelled by the abuser to commit criminal acts, or recanting their story due to threats by the abuser or more. When these survival tactics are subject to prosecution at face value, with no investigation into the domestic violence that led to them, we end up where we are now, with scores of incarcerated victims. Oklahoma is currently second in the nation for the number of women murdered by a male intimate partner. When women fight back, we know they are going to prison at much higher rates than men who claim self-defense. If we want to change the tragic history of domestic violence in our state, we must acknowledge that those already in prison as a result of their abuse deserve a chance to have that abuse considered by a court when sentencing them. We must pass House Bill 1639 with retroactivity. It is common sense. There is no reason to acknowledge this problem going forward and leave behind women like Kibrianna Boyd, Erica Harrison, April Wilkens, or Sherry McDonald. The punishment must fit the crime, and for too long that has not been the case for survivors. Now is the time for Oklahoma to act on this issue. Thank you. I'd now like to introduce my colleague and friend, Jan Peery, CEO of YWCA in Oklahoma City.
Good morning. My name is Jan Peery, and I have the privilege and honor of serving as President and CEO of YWCA Oklahoma City. Our organization provides services primarily in Oklahoma County and surrounding areas to those who've experienced domestic violence. In 2021, our organization provided direct services to over 2,600 victims and survivors of this crime. We also educated thousands more and provided other services on the risks and harms associated with domestic violence. In that same year, there were nearly 43,000 domestic violence calls for service to law enforcement. And that number represents only the ones who actually made the call. Of those 43,000 plus, less than 1,000 led to an arrest. Even if we were able to serve all of the victims who actually made the calls, there would still be a large percentage that would result in more serious crime because of the nature of survivorship itself. Many survivors, for a myriad of reasons, do not or cannot receive services. They can't escape their perpetrators, their violent partners, and they find themselves fighting back to survive. This is survival, a protection of the right to life. This is a basic human right. Protection of self, children, and other family members is the most common motive of victims to use force against their violent and controlling partners. Survivors may be left with no other option except to use force to defend themselves. But violence is not usually their first option. It's not usually the first action. They've often tried a variety of methods and strategies to stop the violence, resist or reduce the abuse, and to escape or cope with the violence. From that violence and oppression inside their relationships. In some cases, survivors find themselves using force in an attempt to reclaim and restore some sense of dignity and self-worth that has systemically destroyed by the batterer, or express their identities as being independent of the controlling partners. Batterers engage in a reign of terror upon a family, which then methodically annihilates the victim's autonomy, safety, dignity, and yes, their liberty. However, more often than not, force by survivors is used to try and stop future violence against themselves and their children. Yet we know in Oklahoma, we are prosecuting women and sending them to prison for life. Erica Harrison, who killed her rapist when police failed to respond timely to her 3 calls for help. Sherry McDonald, who was coerced by her perpetrator into holding up a fast food restaurant and was sent to jail for life because her husband used violence against the employees. These women are a testament to our state's failure to adequately serve domestic violence survivors and victims, and a justice system that fails to protect victims from horrific violence at the hands of their intimate partners. House Bill 1639 offers a nuance in sentencing for survivors charged with a crime. It does not take away accountability from crimes, but allows our system to take into consideration the violent trauma that ultimately resulted in the crime for which they are accused. The legislature has voted yes to this policy, almost unanimously. In the Senate, only 1 nay. Yet a single minority of policymakers influenced by special interests have refused to consider making this good policy retroactive. It makes no sense and no rational reason has been given. We must pass House Bill 1639 with retroactivity if we truly want to change the tides and consequences of domestic violence in our state. Thank you. I now want to introduce Amanda.
Hello, my name is Amanda Ross, and I am April Wilkens' niece. April has been in prison almost my entire life. I did not learn the truth about her imprisonment until I was much older. I have spent the last 5 years working with her to tell the public her story through the free April Wilkens blog. So many people have acknowledged that April's criminal sentence is a travesty, including numerous lawmakers here at the Capitol. I applaud the leadership of folks like John Eccles, who has personally assured me that he would put House Bill 1639 to a floor vote if it were released from conference with retroactivity. The state of Oklahoma, and in particular the district attorneys, have exacted their pound of flesh from my aunt, but still want more. April killed her abuser in self-defense while handcuffed in his basement after an hours-long assault by him. She managed to get the gun he had threatened her with earlier in the night, and as he threatened to assault and kill her, she managed to shoot him in self-defense. It is a miracle she is alive. It is a tragedy that her abuser died because the state failed to intervene. They failed to intervene in her defense earlier and to hold him accountable for his abusive actions and to stop the escalating violence. It is a moral failing of the justice system that she has spent 25 years in prison for self-defense. Had the district attorneys in Tulsa County pursued accountability for Terry Carlton's abusive criminal conduct with the same vigor they have sought to punish April Wilkens for acting in self-defense, Terry might still be here, and April might never have gone to prison. The system that prosecuted April to the fullest extent of the law is the same system that allows abusers to walk free every day with little or no accountability. There is much work to be done on domestic violence in our state, and it begins here by including retroactivity in House Bill 1639 and passing it out of conference and through both chambers to be signed into law by Governor Kevin Stitt. We cannot allow the legislature to leave April and her fellow criminalized survivors in prison. We demand retroactivity be included in House Bill 1639 so that survivors can seek justice in our courts. Thank you.
Thank you, Angel. My name is Stephanie Henson, and I'm here representing the League of Women Voters of the state of Oklahoma. We have just finished conducting a 2-year study on criminal justice reform in our state and criminal justice policies. Our study is fresh off the presses, and I feel like I'm so new to this whole work. The League 3 years ago started investigating our criminal justice system after 805 was on the ballot, because it's our job to empower voters by talking to them about what are the implications of a state question. I realized how little at that time I understood the criminal justice system in our state, and I also recognized that that is true. If that's true for me, that's true of so many voters in Oklahoma. It's true of so many Oklahomans that we just don't know, and we just don't understand the policies that everybody is discussing here today. I remember one of the very first things we did, we pulled together a series of educational forums, and we spoke with Nicole McAfee, who at the time was with the ACLU. And one of the things that she had said was that the reasons that these harmful policies exist is because of a lack of proximity to the people who are most harmed by these policies. So the men and women who are in prison and harmed by policies, harmful policies, and who are harmed by good policies that fail to pass. So the idea of getting proximate to them became very important. And the beauty of the fact that all of these people know that intimately these stories is something that I really want to impress on others like myself, again, myself 3 years ago, who knew so very little about the harms of our criminal justice system. So one of the things that I did personally was I took it upon myself to become a Department of Corrections volunteer. So apart from the League of Women Voters, and because I'm a former English teacher, I partnered with the Oklahoma Humanities Council, and Let's Talk About It Oklahoma, just to go in and read at Mabel Bassett. So once a week, I'm there working with women who would be helped by House Bill 1639. These are women who have become friends of mine and who celebrate the work that everybody up here has done. 1639 and with retroactivity is so powerful and it's so good. I kind of wanted to show you, I've brought them all up here with me since they can't be here today. My wonderful friend Deborah, who made for me at our Christmas gathering, she made a Christmas ornament that hangs on my tree, and she said, Stephanie, she said, you'll notice I put my little snowman in orange. She said that way you'll remember it's from us. I love these women. I love all of these people. I love these voices. I'm so grateful to be here and be able to raise my voice with all of theirs and with my friends who are currently incarcerated. They are my heroes. They are the countervailing forces that will help to overcome the oppressive forces that keep us down. The League has said in our policy position that we recognize the pervasiveness of gender discrimination throughout the Oklahoma criminal justice system. I want to say it again. The League recognizes the pervasiveness of gender discrimination throughout Oklahoma. The League recognizes the pervasiveness of gender discrimination. And just yesterday, I found that so difficult to say, and I'm shaking right now because I recognize, and I said this to Alex, I recognize that because I didn't want to believe it to be true. I didn't want to believe that being a woman in Oklahoma made me less than. And it has been true all my life that being a woman in Oklahoma has made me less than. It's why I'm a member of the League. I cannot even tell you, in rural Oklahoma, a man tried to lasso me one time. I just find this appalling that countervailing forces against this kind of inhumanity are the women at Mabel Bassett. They're my friends, Deborah and Amber and Christy with a C and Christy with a K. These women inspire me to raise my voice when I'm too afraid because of the misogyny in our state. I'm too afraid to say it for myself, but to be able to say it for Cotton Candy and for Holly, and to be able to say it for Jackie, and to be able to say it for these women. I say thank you to Colleen. I thank you that I can raise my voice with these folks, and by the way, with so many of the amazing legislators who are helping us. This is something that we can do together. I want to talk about the paradox. It's not just an opportunity for mourning. This is an opportunity to celebrate because there are countervailing forces in our state that will pass 1639. We've got 4 days to do it. 1639 with retroactivity is so important. Thank you all for being here today. We appreciate you. We love you. Oklahoma Standard, we can do better. Mwah!
It's amazing. Angel.
Yeah. This is how we work together, right? Yeah, you need it. It don't matter what you need. My name is Angel Little. On the Oklahoma Appleseed Board of Directors. I'm a life-giving artsmith. I bring communities together, and I use the arts as a way to bind and create creative expressiveness between all of us. I have dedicated my life to uplifting and encouraging the voices of those who have been downtrodden, marginalized, and all but forgotten. And I'm standing here right now, surrounded by so many people who believe that there is something seriously wrong with what we're doing. And with Ms. Henson's words, there is something seriously wrong. And we need to fix this, because we should not be holding pictures of these women up here right now because of what they went through. Why? Because we have to do something. Oklahoma is considered one of the worst states in our nation for women. And we know that domestic violence is a plague to our humanity. What I am looking at for all of us right now, what I see right now for all of us, is a chance to do something. A chance to stop these injustice policies, because they're not justice, they're injustice policies. These procedures that are out here right now that are infecting my mothers, my sisters, my friends, my family, that are keeping them from enjoying the freedoms that they deserve, that are keeping them from enjoying themselves, to know what it's like to live and to thrive. When we say Survivor Justice Act, I cringe, because we should be thriving, not surviving. And they have no chance of that with the way things are right now. So I'm asking our legislature, and those who are hearing this, and those who have heard everyone speaking, and those who will speak after me, get behind this. House Bill 1639 needs to pass with retroactivity. This needs to happen. It's beyond something that we should do. We should have done it. And this is our time right now. Let's do this. Let's come together as a community like we're supposed to be. As a people like we're supposed to be. And let's do what we can to provide an opportunity so that we do not see more women like this. This is what we need to do. And I encourage all of you, legislature, everyone, be about it, please. Because I don't want to see us go down in history for failing ourselves as human beings because we didn't make that choice. Thank you.
Good morning. My name is Alexandra Bailey, and I am the Senior Campaign Strategist at the Sentencing Project. And a while back, my friends called me and said Oklahoma has a real problem with domestic violence, and we want to pass a Survivorship Act. And I couldn't get here fast enough because I'm a survivor. I woke up this morning and I took seizure medication, and I will take that medication for the rest of my life because I survived. And the reason I take that medication is because I didn't fight back, because I knew where fighting back would land me. It would land me in the tragic position of the women that you see up here. Since the legislature has made this devastating choice to not include retroactivity in HB 1639, I encourage everybody who watches this on the news, everybody who is a voter in Oklahoma, a citizen of Oklahoma, that when you go home today, I want you to take a look around your life, around your church, around your community, and remember that 1 of every 2 women you see will be a survivor in this state at some point in their life. And if you care about any of the women that you are looking at, then you should be calling your legislator and demanding that retroactivity be put in HB 1639. And taking my professional hat off, I'm going to pray for the women who are up here who have been dealt this unbelievable blow after surviving the unbelievable devastation of not just their incarceration, but the damage that is done to their children, to their families, to their community. I'm going to pray that all those who have stood against this bill come to see the error of their ways. For it is so easy to take justice from others. But if that was ever done to them, if they ever found a woman in their life in those circumstances, it's the people who are standing up here who would be the first to her aid. I pray that they never had to experience that, but statistically in this state, I hold out very little hope. It's time to pass this bill with retroactivity. It is the only moral and just thing to do. You would have had to have had parts of your body that are private sewn up after an attack from your spouse to understand how devastating it is. The women who are in prison behind me, they were braver than me. They were braver than me, and they deserve your support, our support, the legislature's support. I don't even know the legislative process, but I hope that everybody goes back in that building and rewrites this bill with retroactivity in it, and within the next 4 days gets it out, because that is the only moral outcome that can happen for the remainder of this legislative season. I want to thank Oklahoma Appleseed and all the people up here for allowing me to be a part of this. It has been one of the greatest honors of my life and career. Thank you.
That concludes the press conference for today. We thank you. If you want to learn more about the bill, you can go to oksurvivorjusticecoalition.org.